Thank you for listening to this episode.
And follow the podcast on social media by finding at Prestigious Pod. And if you'd like to be coached on how to live a more prestigious life, you can reach out to me, Chris Bean, at Chris Bean Official, or by emailing the podcast directly at prestigiousinitiative@gmail.com.
Lastly, sign up for our newsletter either through social media or on our website.
This is the Prestigious Initiative. Welcome. I'm Chris Bean. Today we're going to be diving into the world of accelerated learning with one of the world's fastest, in fact, not one of, the world's fastest reader, Howard Stephen Berg, the Guinness Book of Record holder for the fastest reader. With over 50 years of experience, Howard has taught individuals and organizations how to double their reading speed, enhance their memory, and master emotional intelligence. If you're ready to revolutionize the way that you learn and achieve your goals, then this episode is for you. Howard, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So, Howard, why would somebody want to listen to today's conversation?
It's the information in the world doubles every 6 months, and we live in a knowledge-based economy. People who know more make more. Brain surgeons are better paid than construction workers. The construction worker is physically working really hard, and it's a skill, but it takes longer to become a brain surgeon, and the information has more value.
Well, yes. Wow. Okay. So, Howard, you hold the Guinness Book of Records for being the fastest reader. Let's see. Can we start by sharing how did you discover or hone this unique skill, and then what did you do to pursue that as a career path?
Well, it wasn't what I pursued, but it's where I kind of was directed. To be honest, I had other directions I had planned on, but it's almost like the universe said, that isn't where you're going. But I grew up in the projects in Brooklyn, and they were very violent. Well, I was mugged over 100 times. It was like West Side Story without the music and dancing. I met Bernardo. He had a knife and he wasn't dancing at all, and he didn't smile. I found the safest place in my neighborhood was the library. Apparently, gang kids treat libraries like vampires treat churches. Have you ever been in a bookstore or library and all the gang kids came in to hang out with the books? It's just not a common sight. So I found that was the place I could go and nothing bad would happen. And I read a lot. So by the time I was 11 at college reading, and then went to college at 17 to major in biology. I went to the State University of New York, Binghamton, which is kind of the crown jewel of the state university system. And I majored in biology, but in my last year, I decided I was going to also do psychology. There's a branch of biology called psychobiology. It's not psychotic, that's Frankenstein. Psychobiology is the biology of learning. And so I told the dean, and he looked at me and he said, "You only have 1 year left. You've had no psych courses. You'll have to take the whole 4 year program in 1 year and finish the bio program, take 6 science courses, 2 4-hour labs. And just to make it fun, I had 3 jobs." And he said, "You're not smart enough." And that's when I realized they never taught learning in school. They told you what to learn, they told you why to learn, but they never told you why you hear a song on the radio once and you never forget it. And then you read the 7 habits of highly effective people and you don't remember a single habit the next day. I said, there's got to be a way to learn things that matter, like we learn songs. I got up to 80 pages a minute by using what I was learning about the brain. I finished the psych program in 1 year, and I took the graduate record exam, which is the SAT for graduate school. I took it in biology, and I reviewed 48 books in 3 nights, like genetics, cell physiology, biochemistry, not light reading. I got 3 questions wrong, so I was in the 99th percentile. I got an 800. And then I started teaching it. So my original goal was to be a psychobiologist, but I found out for every 1,000 PhDs, there were 2 jobs. So it didn't seem like the best career choice to make. Spend a couple 100,000 to get a doctorate. Let me ask you this: if you ever met an employed psychobiologist in your life?
Nope.
Neither have I. So I think I made the right decision. So instead of going for a doctorate, I decided to use what I learned to help others and teach them. I had a school and my kids was doing college classes at 11 and passing them with A's in a week. So we'll talk a lot about, but that's how it got started. I wasn't planning on this, but reality set in, and the path I had set out on was even more unrealistic. You had a 500 to 1 chance of getting employed. If you want, I had one more. So I went to the State University of New York. They had a primate lab, and there was an opening. So I had two sciences. I was in the 99th percentile in biology. I figured they'd probably take me. They ended up with a person with a master's degree to clean monkey droppings, feed the monkeys, and get bits. So I'm like, so you go to school 2 more years and you can clean monkey cages too. If you're lucky, you have to get picked. I said, that doesn't sound like a good idea. So
Mm.
that's how I ended up here.
Wow, what and what an incredible story. So it is interesting that you talk about school not being where you learn. You're just kind of force fed information, but as far as retaining that information, there's little in the way of tools and tactics and strategy to work on that material in a way that you can retain it. You take a class and hopefully you can remember it well enough for the final, but man, the day after that stuff is gone. It's not even remotely there. And then let alone years later. And my interpretation of that is it's like we have to go through these small little steps in order to make it to where they quote unquote want us to be at the end. But a lot of the learning, a lot of the like job knowledge happens when you're on the job. You don't learn like I've heard a story where Artie was reading how to be a accountant. After he read how to be an accountant, he went put it into practice. He was a great accountant. Wonderful. He read how to do this and farming, and then he went to be a good farmer. Then he read how to swim, and then he went and drowned, because that's not something that you can learn from a book. A lot of the things that we're doing in a day-to-day type of basis, that was a good one, huh?
I like that. Yes.
um, a lot of the things that
I
we're doing
say what's
on,
wrong?
oh,
The schools are based on time. You
mm,
spend a year and you go to the next grade. My school didn't do that. We were
ah,
based on skill set.
yeah,
When you learned this, and we only had one grade, an A, and you didn't get an A, you earned an A.
mm,
If you do want to be in a plane with a pilot who got a C or a D on landings, or a surgeon
mm,
who got a C and D on surgery, when you're a young person getting C's and D's in arithmetic, big shock you don't learn algebra because you can't count.
yeah,
So instead of graduating students who are illiterate, can't read, can't write, can't count, you keep them at the skill until they learn it. And when they've demonstrated a proficiency, they go to the next one, and then they go to the next one. And if they can't do it, then don't put them in an academic track. Teach them to be electricians. They make better money than teachers anyway. Plumbers, teach them how to be a car mechanic. There's lots of professions that are honorable where you make very good income without going to school. And if that's not what your brain is set up for, so what? Maybe you're meant to be an actor or an actress or somebody that's more in the arts. It doesn't mean you have to know calculus and speak 6 languages. And so the whole system is really set up to create followers.
mm,
It's all about shut up and listen.
mm,
And when you don't, they get angry. Leaders don't shut up and listen. Leaders lead. And so I have a friend, D student in college. He made $3.5 million in 90 minutes selling from stage. Was he dumb? He was studying marketing. He had a D average. What's the difference? He actually learned how to market, not from school, but like you said, by studying successful marketers who were making successful presentations. He mirrored their presentations and he made 3 million in 90 minutes. I don't think that's dumb.
no.
And this is the problem. We're not preparing people for success. We're preparing them to shut up and listen, which is not a way you're going to succeed in life.
And okay, so that's interesting that you say it like that, because I've my kind of way that I explain school is it is a process where we learn how to jump through other people's hoops. And I think that's a very useful skill that we have to have almost anywhere stretched across the board. But that is the thing that we learn in school, is how to jump through those hoops, and maybe a little bit of like the social aspect while you're in school. You get to communicate with people. I think that is actually learned not on purpose. It's just by default. It's just how it works. And the sense that I get too is, in the 50s or the early 1900s, Carnegie came in and he wanted not office workers, he wanted factory workers. So he came in, okay, let's make them jump at the bell. This is when lunch is. They're going to walk in a line, and redefined what schooling was for us here, at least in the States, to make the type of person that he wanted on the other end. And
Right, come
we're
from the
all
farm,
suffering.
work on the assembly line.
Yeah,
And that's exactly what it was.
yeah,
You hit it right on the head. Why was it free? Because they were training you to be a worker, not a boss.
yeah. So, all right, Howard, with all of the information that we have coming in, and you said information is doubling every 60 days. With
6 months.
sorry, with every 6 months. With that happening, we have this sheer ton of information coming in on a daily basis. How do we interact with that in such a way that is helpful, and with the concept of accelerated learning kind of at the core, in order to quadruple our learning information based on all of the information that we're taking in?
Well, I'll first show you how it's possible to double to quadruple your reading rate. So you're driving in a car, and on a highway, it's not unusual to be 70 miles or more. And you're watching the road in 4 directions: the front, the back, the left, and the right. You're keeping track of your gas and your speed and your gauges. You're watching your GPS all at the same time. And you're bored. So you turn on the radio, you talk on the phone, and you talk to people sitting in the car. And many times you do all that at the same time. And you're still bored. When you read a book, it's in front of you, not in 4 directions. And the average person reads about 200 words a minute. That's the mode. And they only remember 10% the next day. So why are you able to do all those things in a car at 70 miles an hour in 4 directions, but only read a book at 200 words a minute and remember maybe 10% the next day? And the answer is, when you're in a car, it's a movie. Everything around you is done visually, analog. When you read a book, it's like there's a little person in back of your head pronouncing one word at a time. We read about the same rate we speak because we're listening to a book with our eyes. Well, analog is instant. If you look around, you just look at the books behind me, you see them in an instant. If you were to read the title in every single book, one at a time, it would take you a considerable amount of time to process the same information you're seeing instantly. And that's the difference between analog and digital. We're using our eyes to do a visual thing, analog, but we're doing it digitally. We're listening to books instead of seeing them. By training people on how to see the movie in the book that they see every other place they are, immediately you could see that would go quicker just by looking at all those books and comparing reading the titles to seeing the books. So we had an 84-year-old, Ruth Lubin, Miss Senior California at 84. And she read 3 books in 3 hours the day after I taught her. So it's not an age thing. I had my youngest student in Toronto, and they were 8, and they read it 5 seconds a page. And they understood and retained it because I tested them. So a normal person can read at least 100% quicker in 4 hours' time with excellent comprehension and retention by doing some of the things we'll discuss today.
Wow. Okay, so there seems to be so my base understanding is there's like a couple layers here that are going on, right? I have to be able to see the words on the page at a quicker rate. I need to increase that. I need to increase the rate at which that movie is playing in my head. I need to find a way to comprehend better or at all the information that I'm taking in. And then on top of that, it seems like perhaps the the slowdown is how fast can I turn the page in that book?
Yes, I can do a page and a half a second. And the bottleneck is you got to turn the page. It
Yeah.
takes time.
Uh,
I read the healthcare bill on Cavuto. It was 1,500 pages, the first draft, and I did it in 50 minutes and live. And I was able to tell what was in the bill and how it worked. Everything you said is absolutely true. Uh, I'll show you already started doing when you were very young, you read letters. You read D, O, G, and you pronounced dog, and you made the word dog. Then you see the word hot dog as one word. You don't see a dog on a bun. You see it as one word. You see United States of America as one word. It's four words. Our brain is naturally starting to group bigger and bigger groupings into singularities. And by learning how to consciously do that on a consistent basis, you can double to quadruple your reading speed in about 4 hours' time.
is there a kind of prep that you do before you go into a book? You kind of go through and kind of look at the chapters or look at the table of contents to get like an idea of what's going to be happening,
Very good.
and that
You're a
kind of
smart
informs
guy.
where you're going. Yeah.
I like that. Nobody's, you're picking up things I haven't discussed yet, but that's good because most interviewers didn't. There's a thing, I took graduate courses on how to teach reading. One of the things is you it's SR2Q, it's called. So you skim, as you described. I could skim a 500-page book in less than 5 minutes. So in that time, what's the book about? Do I even want to learn this? How many times have you gotten a book and weeks later you said, that was the wrong book? Now I got to get the right book and just lost weeks. In just a few minutes, you're looking and think, this is what I want. I can see the information it's giving is precisely the information that I need. And you're getting the 50,000-foot view. You're not learning the content. You're finding out what the content is that you would be learning. How is it laid out? Does it have headers? Does it have footers? Does it have pictures? Does it have charts? Does it have diagrams? Is there a glossary? Is there an you're seeing features and you know what you can use to learn the book if you choose to. And that only takes about 5 minutes. But now you have a map of the territory, which is the book that you're going in. And then I say, read the first chapter the same way, real fast. Read the chapter in about 90 seconds or less. And then you have a map of where you're about to journey. And you go first through the whole thing super fast. And then you go slower to find what you need to know that you don't know yet. And so I don't use reading alone to learn. Speed reading really doesn't work the way it's taught. You read slowly, you don't learn. You could read a calculus book as slowly as you want and fail the test because you didn't understand anything you read. You remember all the formula and you can plug numbers into every one of them. But if someone gave you a problem to solve, you don't know which one to use or which ones to use or in what sequence to use them. Reading isn't learning. It's part of it. I call it the Swiss Army knife. It's the big blade, but it isn't enough to learn. You've read books, you've memorized, and you failed anyway because you didn't know what you read and you misunderstood it. And when you answered the questions, it was with the wrong understanding. So that's step one. Step two is study skills. Now that you know what you want to learn, analyze it. And I teach different steps for doing the analysis. So now you didn't just read it, you understand the meaning and significance of what you read. You know how to use what you learned. The third step is memory. So now you need to remember what you understand so you can actually use it when you need to apply it. Different skill. And there's a fourth set of skills, which is EQ. And you would appreciate this as a martial arts instructor, staying in state, not panicking. People get nervous taking exams. People get tired taking long meetings. how do you stay in the right state to apply what you learn? I trained the U.S. Special Forces at Fort Bragg and the Royal Thai Army in Bangkok. They're very well trained. They didn't need me to teach them how to shoot and kill people. They were taught that by much more experienced trainers than me. My job was to remember what they were trained on when things don't go right and they have bad days. So how do you stay focused for 4 days without sleep and remember your training so you don't get killed? And I'll share one thing I taught them. I think you'll find even good at your martial arts classes. I said, what's the single most important question you could ask when things go really badly? And the single best question you could ask is, what's the next best thing I can do now? Now, why is this happening to me? It isn't fair. Yeah, it probably isn't. And it shouldn't be happening to you. But guess what? It's happening. So you can get depressed and commiserate on all the bad things happening right now. And you might even be justified. It is very unfair. Or you could fix it. You can't do both. If you're in a depressed state and you're barely able to stay functioning, you're not going to find a solution to your situation. So if you're asking, what can I do right now to fix this? What's your brain going to do? It's a computer. It looks for where you are and looks at where you want to be. And it says, here's something you could try. Here's 3 or 4 possible ways to solve the problem. Let's start with number 1 and see what happens. Then we'll do 2, 3, and 4. And if they don't work, we'll read another book and find 5 or 6 more ways. But that's a lot better than why is this happening? And this is the problem many people have. Things go badly in life sometimes, even for very good people. And instead of staying focused on what their options are, they're focusing on how bad things are going. And they never get out of that hole. Successful people look for strategies to extrapolate themselves from their circumstance instead of making it worse. And I know you could see that application in what you do as well. You're having a fight and it's going poorly. What do? Panic? Or look at what did you learn about your opponent and how they strike that you could use to your advantage? You got 2 options here. And that's the way life is. So I teach that. And those are emotional intelligence skills. And we can go deeper on that if you'd like as we progress.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so all right. As far as the reading goes, I'm trying to dissect what you're saying and make it fit in my brain here. So you are going through a text sometimes a couple of times. You do that kind of 5,000 foot 3 times. That 5,000
First,
foot.
skim,
Yeah.
find what it's about. Second, read, find what you don't know and need to learn. Third, memorize what you found that you understood and need to know later. Analyze what you didn't understand to understand it, because you don't know if you need it until you understand it. And if you need it, use memory skills to lock it in. If you don't need it, discard it.
Okay, so that's where I want to talk about. Okay, so you have that the memory skills, right? So as far as retaining that information, how much activity are you doing outside of reading the book? Are you taking notes? Do you try to recap the chapters as you go? Are you using like a memory palace type of technique as you're trying to memorize
All
the
the
things?
above.
Okay.
Okay. One of the things I developed a better way to take notes. I can triple the amount of data you take, whether it's on a live program, a video, an audio, or a book. Where most people take, what do you usually write about when you're taking notes, typically?
Well, I would say I would put I would put a question on the top of the page, and my notes try to answer the question that I posed either to myself or from the reading.
But that's better than most people. And most people write down what they're learning. You're teaching me now how to take notes better. So you're writing down what's a way to take better notes, and you're taking notes on how to take better notes. But here's what's missing. So I have a 3-column table in Word. First column is what am I learning? That's what everyone writes. But here's the other 2 columns. What did the person presenting the data do to make it interesting? So did they tell a story? Did they tell a joke? Did they change their body language? Whatever they did, what made you go, wow, that's fantastic. You can do that when you're presenting or you're writing. Just found a strategy that you can apply to what you're learning and teaching. So you're not just learning what they're teaching, but the meta program of how they're presenting it to maintain your interest and feed you the information efficiently. The third column, how will you use what you just learned? And this is very important. So you're at a seminar, 3 weeks later, you'll remember they had good donuts and I made a few friends. You have no idea what they taught you 3 weeks ago. What if you wrote down when you were learning, this is how I'm going to use this 3-column note thing. And then you used it and you benefited from it. Or I'm learning a new marketing strategy from a marketing guru, and I write down how I'll apply this strategy to my business when I get home. And I do it, and I do it, and I do benefit. If I'm seeing a 30-40% increase in my bottom line from a strategy that I'm using, do I need to keep studying that? Or is my brain going to never forget this is something that really works? It's the application of knowledge where learning takes place. Watching it, reading it, hearing it is step one. But if you don't use it and see results and see how it's actually impacting your life, you probably will not remember it or use it effectively. So those are the 3 columns. Now, without a pad, if you're doing a pad, you can label it F for fact, then a dash, I for an insight, and A for an application. So you're not using columns, you're labeling what would have been in a column, and you're getting the same benefit. And that's a much better way to take notes than just what you're learning. Doesn't that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. And so that middle column is kind of the mode that they use to teach whatever it was. And
The meta program.
uh-huh.
What's
It
going on behind the curtain? I'll give you an example of a meta program that people selling from stage will use. Okay. Most people aren't aware of these things, but I'm doing this for 50 years. So you're presenting and you say, all the problems are over here. Every time you have a problem. So you're having problems studying and you're having problems learning and you can't remember anything. Okay. And you're pointing over there every time. Now your products are sitting on this side. So if you want to learn faster, if you want to have more benefits, and you don't talk about the product at all, but what you're doing is you're pointing at the product. Every time it's a solution that works, it's the product. Every time it's a problem, it's the other direction. And then at the end, you want them to come up and go over here to the product. They don't know why they're doing it. It's a meta program. You can watch speakers. I'm just telling you, I'm pulling the curtain back. I see it. I know how they work. And so they're creating layers of desire. This is going to solve this. This is going to solve this. This isn't where I want to be. I want this. And then at the very end, they want to have this. And they get up and go to the product table and they don't even know why they're doing it. But for the last 90 minutes, their brain has been told that's the answer. You better go over there or you're going to end up over there. And that's an example of a meta program. So you could be watching the presenter and have no idea that they're creating an anchor to the product that's going to draw you to make a purchase later. That's the kind of thing you want to take a note on as a presenter. Because you say, well, I could do that and it'll increase my sales. Okay, that's a meta program.
Hey everyone, it's Chris Bean here from the Prestigious Initiative. If you're looking to level up your life and unlock your full potential, I've got some exciting news for you. My recent guest, Joel Gandara, has an incredible program called 31 Days to Become a Better Man. Joel has packed years of life-changing insights into this easy-to-read book, guaranteed to help you rethink your shortcomings and redefine what it means to be a man in today's world. But that's not all. Joel also offers powerful one-on-one sessions and group classes to guide you on your journey. And he has a special offer for the Prestigious Initiative listeners. You can get $19.99 off the program when you use code PRESTIGIOUS at checkout. Don't wait. Take your first steps towards becoming the best version of yourself today. Visit 31dailychallenges.com and use the code PRESTIGIOUS for your discount. And now back to the show. So, is the purpose of writing the meta programming down to use it later, or is it to understand? So, like, let's say I'm reading a book on how to be a faster reader, as we're talking about. We're doing that now. As you're telling me the story, I'm imagining what we've done so far as the book, the stories, the practical knowledge, yes, but the stories by which those are the avenue of which you're approaching this. The stories is how we learn, how we think, that movie in our mind, like you talked about. Those are the meta programming that you're using, or at least for my interpretation that you're using. So I would write that down. Am I writing that down so that I can see that as how I learned it, or am I writing that down to use that at a later time if I wanted to share something with somebody else, or is it a double?
All of the above. So you can be writing the story down in column one, but in column two, why are they telling this story?
Mm.
What problem are they agitating? How are they agitating it? What are they doing to create more desire to get away from that pain? And how are they alleviating that pain and making it easier to find a solution there? And that's a meta program. And I guarantee you, if you go to any presentation where a sale is being made, and that's a lot of presentations, if you watch closely, there's a science behind it. And they're using that science to motivate people to take an action at the end that they desire. Otherwise, they have no income. It's not like they have a choice. They have to create a desire for the product or service, or there isn't going to be any sales. I go a little different. I felt if you're really good and you're interesting and you give good information and it has a lot of value, and people look at that and say, this person can help me. They've been really generous. They've given me good data. They've given me good information. I would like to learn more because this is what they gave for free. Imagine what I get when I'm paying them and the benefits I get. Look at the benefits I already got. And then they buy. That's another way to do it. And I kind of feel that's more ethical because you're winning their respect by giving them what they came for and instead of just playing mind games. But that's a different approach. Not everyone does that.
Okay, so the three columns, that last column, I think that is phenomenal, because in my head, what that does is that creates an action plan for me to write down why I'm learning these things, how am I going to apply these things, because then I'm going to be more likely to remember that. Because I remember this. I want to be able to put this into practice. When can I do that? I can do that then. And then you're almost in your mind, maybe on your calendar, but in your mind, you're scheduling that into you're penciling it into a date. Boop. Okay, that's where I'm going to use it. And then
Exactly.
then
And
you
when
go to
you
use
go
it.
home, pick two or three of them every day to do.
Yeah.
Make sure you schedule time to implement at least 1 to 3 of those things every day after that conference or after reading the book or watching the video or the podcast. Use what you're learning. Use it. When you use it and you benefit from it, you don't have to study it. Your body's going to remember it because it gave you that benefit. And it's going to lock it in, where a lot of people won't remember it. They never used it. And it then becomes useless. And years later, they don't remember or weeks later, they don't remember valuable information that could have transformed their life. But all they needed was to put it into an action plan. You're completely right.
Now, Howard, as it comes to reading, I I have done a little bit of research on what speed reading looks like, as the general consensus says. And basically, like you said, when you're little, you start by learning the letters. I learned this letter and this letter. Then, okay, what's the word? And then you're doing compound words. Then you're doing phrases. Then you're doing sentences. At some point, you're looking at it and you're seeing paragraphs. And perhaps probably where you are, you're looking at it and you're seeing, pages,
Whole
if not
page.
chapters or something, as much as you can see
Yeah.
visually.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
as you're doing that, so one of the techniques that I have tried to implement. It was kind of difficult to do, to be completely honest. You read from right to left, just standardly read right to left, and you go back right to left, right to left. But in speed reading, as what I was told to do, how I was taught to do it, was you go right to left, and then you go left to right, and you're kind of going zigzag down the page, and you're kind of just moving your hand down, and your eyes are just kind of going to the end of one line and then down and then back to the other line. Hopefully that's making sense for people that are listening.
Yeah, that's something you can do, but it takes more than the mechanics to make it work.
Mm.
Okay, I'll give you a good example of how comprehension actually does work. I'll read something to you. The secret to comprehension is in psychology. It's called schema. So I'll read something to you that has no schema and watch how confused you are. I'll read it a second time with a title that has schema, and immediately it'll make sense. So you can see the power of schema. This is an easy thing to do. If possible, you could do it at home, but you could always go someplace else if it's necessary. Beware of overdoing it. This is a major mistake and may cost you quite a bit of money. Would you bet your life now that you know precisely what I'm talking about?
No.
And it's not making a whole lot of sense. And that's what a lot of books are like. You're reading the words and saying, well, what does this mean? I don't understand what they're telling me. It doesn't make any sense. I'll read the same lines, but one word that has schema, and instantly it makes sense. Laundry. Laundry. This is an easy thing to do. If possible, you could do it at home, but you could always go someplace else if it's necessary. Beware of overdoing it. This is a major mistake, and it costs you quite a bit of money. There's zero confusion. I'm teaching the psychology the brain is using to find meaning and significance. So you're not just doing this, you have a specific things to look for, and you know where to look and how to find them. So you're not just seeing a lot of data flowing at high speed, you're seeing the data that makes it make sense and meaningful and significant. Now, there's four kinds of reading you identified. I don't think you realize the labels, but elementary reading is what you were describing, letters. Then there's inspectional reading, which is when I'm reading a book in 5 minutes. I'm finding out the main ideas and what it's about. I'm not mastering the book. Then there's analytical reading. You're learning the book. And then there's syntopical reading. You're reading multiple books but conflicting ideas and opinions, and you're coming to a conclusion which one you think you should use. So basically, when I'm doing analytical reading, I'm looking for the meaning and significance. I did a graduate course in educational psychology. Now it's a 5-month course, but I read the book in 7 hours, 4 times, and I took the AP test, which was 6 hours, and I finished in 50 minutes. And I got a B plus, 4 graduate credits in less than 8 hours for $65. And I said, why did you get an A? This is important. I was a teacher and I needed the credits to keep my license active. I didn't care about the course. I wanted 4 credits. My purpose was credits, not the course. I needed a C minus to get the credits. I got a B plus. I exceeded my goal. Now, if I wanted to learn it, I might have done some more studying, but I didn't want to learn it. I wanted 4 graduate credits. And this is important. Whenever you read, what's your goal? What's your purpose? What's your win? What are you hoping to accomplish from this podcast, this video, this audio, this book? What do you hope to see happen as a result? When you have a purpose, things change. I'll give you an example. You go to the mall at Christmas time, it's busy. Most of the people there are strangers. You don't know them. You don't care. You just walk past them. And you say, look, look. Oh, there's Howard. You spotted me in the crowd, but you had to see all the other faces. But I was relevant to you. I was a friend or a neighbor or a relative. And so people who had purpose in your life, you recognized from all the other data around them, the unknown faces. And next year, you still won't know any of those people. So if you're reading with that same mindset of what am I trying to accomplish here, Just like the faces in the crowd, the information on the page that has the relevance that you're seeking will pop and present itself because the brain is designed to things that matter,
Mm.
that are relevant to you. And this is what I'm teaching people. How do you do that? How do you accomplish? By the way, there's a website, berglearning.com, where I have my programs, and it teaches it in greater detail. But I'm trying to share some of the strategies here as well, so people can see that what I'm doing will actually. I have 11-year-olds in college. I've trained an 84-year-old, 92-year-old. I work with Fortune 500 companies. Everyone needs to learn for a different reason. A kid needs to get grades. A professional wants to make money. Well, you're going to make more money if you know more and are aware of problems that are coming up before they happen, or a person who's working in the darkness and has no idea where they are right now. Information is the basis of success in our knowledge-based economy. So it's really not about reading. Reading is a screwdriver. You don't say, look at my screwdriver. Just look at the thing I just built with the screwdriver. It's a tool.
Mm.
It's a tool. You don't get excited over the tool. You get excited over making more money, having new skills, being able to. Most people want more money, they work more hours, or they work a second job. That's not how you make more money. That's how you burn out.
Mm.
You make more money by learning something that pays better. So instead of $12 an hour, you're making $150 an hour because you have something people will pay you for worth 150 an hour because you learned it.
Mm.
That's how you make more money. You don't make more money making more $12 an hour days. Well, now you're up to $18 an hour. Wow. That still doesn't make a difference
Mm.
in your life. When you're going at 100, 200, 300 an hour, now you're seeing a little different life. And it doesn't happen by magic. It happens because you learned something
Mm.
that people will find valuable enough to pay you for. Well, you've learned how to boost what you do to a higher level of productivity in less time. That's how you succeed. You don't succeed by working harder. You succeed by working smarter.
So you emphasize the importance of emotional intelligence in achieving success and kind of applying these things. How does mastering emotional intelligence complement the skills of accelerated learning in this and memory development?
So one of the things I know from being a teacher for many years is when students take an SAT, not all, but many students, about an hour and a half, 2 hours in, it's like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm bored. And they just fill in the circles and go home. And of course, they don't get a good score. They can't go to a school with a scholarship. They didn't get into the school their parents wanted them to get. They were bored. What did he want? They had to sit there another hour to get the scholarship? Why? Because mom and dad want it? No. So I'm teaching them how to stay alert. So when you find your energy dropping, you wake up and you're able to function. Or instead of having a nervous breakdown over a final, you walk in calm. It's another test. I don't care. I know this material. I'm ready for it, and I'm going to do a really great job. And you're going in with confidence, and you're going in without anxiety. Or you're speaking in public. I've been on stage since I'm 3, for different reasons, but a lot of people would rather be in a coffin than doing the eulogy because they're more afraid of public speaking than death. You can eliminate a lot of those problems by learning how to reprogram the unconscious brain to be doing the things you want instead of the things that it's doing. And there's a number of scientific techniques I'll show you one right now if you'd like.
Sure, absolutely. Yes.
I'm going to control your mind.
All right.
I'm telling you that. Everyone watching, I'm going to control your mind too. You know I'm going to do it. No matter how hard you try, you won't be able to stop me. Okay? Don't think of Mickey Mouse eating pizza. What's the first thing that just happened?
Mickey Mouse eating pizza.
So think of a salesperson who wants to imprint a thought into a prospect or client about buying the martial arts training, and you use that kind of a language, and they don't know why, but I need this martial arts training more than I've ever needed anything in my life. You ever watch a commercial like, I need that?
Mm.
I don't know why, but my life depends on getting whatever I'm looking at right now. There's a reason they're using language that imprints itself on your unconscious without you even seeing it happen. And they know how to do it. There's a science just for that. There's a whole science that teaches this. And so I'm using it for good, not for evil. I'm teaching students how to stay calm. I'm teaching professionals not to panic at a presentation by using the same strategies that made you want to buy that widget, but on yourself for your own desires to accomplish them. So your emotions don't flare up and divert you from what you really deserve because you couldn't control them. They're controllable, just like I controlled your mind. And there's a whole, I think I have my new program at 2 hours on how to use this science to eliminate things that are sabotaging your success, self-sabotaging, wrong thinking. Like a student in a martial arts contest looks at the opponent. I can't beat this person. Look how big they are. They're older than me. They're thinking already how they're going to lose. And what do you think's going to happen to that student? They've already seen themselves losing. They've lost already. They don't even have to wait for the contest. They could have just laid down on the mat and said, I'm done. And that's how life is. People are giving up. They're surrendering their opportunities, their success, having a better life, a better house, a better life for their families because they don't know what they're doing wrong and they don't know what to do about it, and they don't realize there's something they could do right now to fix it and change it. So that's how I'm using it. It's not just learning that sabotages our failure or success in life. It's how we use what we know already. And there are very good people that are having very bad opportunities because they're creating them through the wrong thinking.
All right. So the unconscious mind is something that really is fascinating to me, and so I'm happy that you brought that up because I'm really intrigued by it. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, because I probably will be, and that's totally fine. But the way that I think about the conscious mind is self-talk. When we're talking to ourselves, that internal dialogue is us talking to our subconscious. And I think that our subconscious is the kind of basic programming to how we know how to show up in the world to be us, right? How we orient ourselves. And if we have a story or a belief in our mind that was in the subconscious, probably told to us from a kid, because the basic sense that I get is before the age of 8, anything you're told, no matter what, you hear that and apply that to you as if it's fact. You can't tell the difference between those things. So you hold on to those stories. They're in your subconscious. Then as an adult, you move forward. And until you find that thing in the subconscious and thereby moving it from the subconscious to the conscious, you can't throw it out and get rid of it, because it's ingrained into the code of who you are, how you know to be you when you wake up tomorrow morning.
Completely right. If you look at a child that's 3 or 4 years old, they don't stop asking questions. By the time they get out of school, they're afraid of public speaking. What happened? Some moron teacher who embarrassed them when they made a mistake. Instead of encouraging them to learn how to fix the mistake, they took them in front of all the people in the room and made them want to crawl under the desk. We've had that. We've all had that experience. We were belittled and ridiculed and felt you just wanted to disappear when that happened. And fortunately, most teachers aren't like that, but we've all had a few. And what happens is later in life, you're afraid of public speaking because if you make a mistake, it's going to humiliate you and make you feel, you remember those feelings. The good news is you can unprogram it. That's a program. Remember we talked meta programs? That's a meta program. It's a false belief, but it's a belief. And you can change that belief. You can restructure that belief I love talking in public. I'm a marketer. I mean, I make a living selling learning programs, but I help people. So I'm not selling cocaine. I'm teaching people to have a better life. I'm helping their kids get through school better. I'm helping them make more money at work. I don't feel what I'm doing is an evil thing, and I give them their money back if I don't succeed. So I'm giving them no problems. Either I give you what I promised, or you don't have to pay me. Because why would you pay someone for not doing what you paid for? It makes no sense. But this is why. So I'm very comfortable standing out on a stage with 5,000 people. What I say is more people, more possibilities, more people I can help, more lives I can fix, more success for me, but more success for them. When you see, I have Gibson Stephen, 16 years old, 4.0, graduates with a degree in economics, master's in math at 19, 397, Yale professor. Justin, 11-year-old C student, 20-year-old English professor. Micah, attorney at 19 in California. Special ed student. I can't give you a name, I promise, because she was afraid it would embarrass her. But she had third grade reading in ninth grade, came to my program. We taught her. She ended up with a 4.0 from a 2-year degree when the people in her high school finished high school. She finished high school, 2 years of college, got a full scholarship to Baylor, and then a master's degree at 22. That's what I'm doing. Okay. So I feel comfortable making people feel comfortable doing the right thing, going to my website or getting the program, because I know I'm going to change their life. I saw what I've done. I know what I'm doing, and I care. I'm a grandparent. The world's in trouble. No one's saying there's too many smart people making too many good decisions. I've not heard that from liberals or conservatives. No one's complaining about the genius in the world. And my job and my thoughts are I can help fix it. Not me personally, but the millions of people that I'm teaching have learned how to think and understand and make choices that better them. That can make a difference on a bigger scale than I could ever make on my own. And I don't feel my gift of reading 80 pages a minute is about me. It's about making this world better for other people by using my gift correctly. And I was a yogi when I was younger. I lived in an ashram on weekends, and I'm not there now, but I still believe in karma and dharma. What you do with your life matters, how you treat people. And I feel that my goal is to treat people the way they want to be treated and empower them with a skill that'll change their life and make it better. And I know I can. We did a double blind study with 100 random people using the Nelson Denny standardized test. Everyone doubled or quadrupled with no loss of comprehension. So I can look someone in the eye and say, 99% sure you're going to double or quadruple your learning and be very, very happy with your outcome. Well, don't pay me. And I think that's a very fair thing to say. If I can give you what I promise, you should pay me. I earned it. But that's not why you're doing it. It's going to benefit you 100 times over whatever you gave me. Changing your life, helping you at work, and helping your student at the same time do better in school. And that's what I do shows for, to make people aware. Again, it's berglearning.com. And if you don't learn it, we have a support team. And if they don't fix it, I do. I personally mentor. I want to make for two reasons. If someone's having a problem, I need to know what it is so I can fix it for the future. And after 35 years, I don't see too many problems because I fixed it. I want to know what's giving someone a problem. I want to understand what their brain is doing differently than what it should be doing so I can change what I'm teaching to make sure that doesn't happen again. It's my job. It's to make it as fun and easy as possible. And I've made many changes over the years from the feedback I got from people. And I get fewer and fewer and fewer people say, one person, I told them, use a book that you understand. So the only thing confusing you is your speed, not the book. I said, here's some bad books, calculus, organic chemistry. Most people would find that hard. So this guy calls up DIM work. I said, oh, First question, what book did you use? Calculus. Didn't I say don't use that? He says, well, I didn't think it mattered. I said, let me ask you a few questions. Are you good at math? No. Have you ever studied calculus before? No. So you can't figure out why learning calculus and speed reading simultaneously isn't working well for you. I said, here's a suggestion. Do it again with a book that you understand and then tell me it didn't work. Why would you try to learn one of the hardest subjects on the planet and try? It's like trying to do it while you're juggling on a rope at the same time. No, learn the skill, then read the calculus book.
Yes.
Now you know how to read and learn it. But no, don't overwhelm yourself with data you can't read slowly and understand and then say, well, it isn't working. Of course it isn't working. You didn't learn how to speed read. You were too frustrated by the subject that you had no idea what you were looking at. That's a good example.
Well, Howard, I want to say thank you. Thank you for joining me in this insightful conversation. I hope that our listeners enjoyed and were inspired to learn, increase their memory and their emotional intelligence as well. And if you're ready to...
Berg Learning.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say
berglearning.com.
Berg Learning. Perfect. And if you're ready to unlock your potential and start applying Howard's strategies, don't forget to check out his website, berglearning.com. And also you can subscribe to the Prestigious Initiative, share this episode with a friend, or leave a review. Keep striving for excellence. And until next time.